Okay, so I just want to ask people a simple question. What what is people's problem when it comes to natural hair? And when we have these discussions about natural hair, there's always got to be that one person that has something to say about nappy hair, about good hair versus bad hair. And it always leaves me frustrated, which is why I can't stand having natural hair conversations because it never ends positively. It's always got to be someone with their anti-blackness shaming my type of hair, which my natural hair is tightly coiled, and some may deem it 4C. But then we have people saying, well, let's just get rid of the label of hair typing because it doesn't do any good. What are you talking about? If you go to the natural hair product aisles, or if you go to the ethnic or multicultural aisles, most of the hair products is geared towards people with the hair that I have in my hand right now. Like a looser, finer texture hair, the right type of afro textured hair, hair that's not nappy and thick and coarse and hard to manage because people just don't want to bother with hair that especially shows people's roots. It frustrates me. And earlier today, I had another riveting conversation with my girls about hair, and they were talking about my edges. Oh, your edges are showing. Maybe next time you should get a part in the middle and all of that. And I'm like, okay, like I just need to grease it down or comb it back, or brush it back. Because honestly, I can understand why coarse edges would be a nuisance if you have braids or fine straight weave or weave of a looser texture, because you don't want your edges to be showing because it wouldn't blend. So I can understand why you would want to hide that because it would look weird. But if it's just you're attacking natural hair, especially nappy hair, the problem isn't good hair grooming or good grooming techniques in general. It's just that you don't like natural hair. This girl really felt some type of way when I said, there's really nothing wrong with my hair. The only issue may be that my edges are a little bit off, it needs to fill in. And then she cut me off like, no, there's something wrong with your hair. I don't understand what her problem is. I don't understand. She just got done telling me that she can't stand her grandmama because her grandma is a colorist who says, ooh, you getting dark, you should stay out of the sun. We just had that deep ass conversation, and then she's sitting up there calling my hair bad. And she perms her hair. Now she's wearing dreads. And I'm like, just because you want to get perms doesn't mean you can shame any girl who goes natural. That is why I have no sympathy for girls with perms, because so many perm heads always want to suggest that girls with natural hair should get a perm. Because, well, if I have a perm, you should get a perm because perms are the best. No. And then this girl who, like I said before, if some of you remember, I love her to death. It's the biracial girl with hair that's similar to the hair that I got now, but her hair is a little bit tighter. She has tighter curls. So I would say her hair is like a mixture between 3C and 4A. Like, I would say her hair is getting up to the 4C, but she still has defined curls. So she probably has 3C and more or less 4A hair. Kind of a mixture, being that, I know how when it comes to being mixed race, you kind of have different types of genetics going on where it's like half straight, half wavy, and then half very nappy. And I've had conversations, and some conversations is very interesting because we are sharing our heritage. Like the other day, I had a nice conversation about curly hair. This girl's like, well, it just depends on your background. If you come from two black parents, because I am assuming the girl is also biracial, she was basically like, your hair will be a little bit thicker or tighter, whereas some other black person or mixed person may have looser hair texture. It just depends on your background and your family and all that. So we were having an interesting conversation. But I just hate talking about natural hair because someone always wants to shame the fact that I'm natural underneath. And sometimes I know I may wear my hair, I don't style it, I don't take care of it, I don't really put anything in it. But it's like so many people are trying to convert it into loose waves, and it's not going to do that. It's very thick to the point where I don't even have a defined curl pattern. It's just mass of thick naps, coils. Yes, it's more or less curly, like you can see the curls, you can see the spirals, but it's so deeply compacted that it's like an afro, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I may want to have looser hair, twist it out and make it look wavy or curly or whatever, but sometimes I just want to wear an afro because I think afros are pretty. I think they are sexy. They are beautiful hair. Trust me, I have good hair. I've seen my hair. It's very thick. It's very healthy. Okay, I'm not sure how healthy it is, but it's pretty thick. So how can you sit there and make a joke about the fact that I am bald-headed when you just said a long time ago that I have very thick hair? I mean, saying that someone has nappy hair and then calling them bald is kind of a contradiction, because if you are calling someone nappy-headed, that must mean that that person got a head full of naps, like thick hair. So they certainly would not be bald-headed, especially if you were to straighten the hair. Then it would be pretty much down to their shoulders or longer. And I've had people tell me, oh, your hair is so long, if you would just perm it or straighten it, that it would be long. Because I have major shrinkage, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that either. But so many people are so conscious about my hair. And I think it's because with colorism, although I am definitely not the lightest person, I consider myself straight up brown skinned. Still, people don't call me darky. I don't get any colorist backlash. No one's going to sit there and say, well, you're dark skinned, or I've never been told I was pretty for a dark skinned girl. Maybe I've been told a few times I've been pretty for a black girl, which I've never been told that personally. I've just been told that I was pretty. But for the most part, people don't really come for anything except for my hair. So some people think that they have something over me, like, oh, you got bad hair. No, sweetie, I don't have bad hair. I just have nappy hair. And it's sad because another thing I wanted to talk about is I hate when people who definitely would not pass the paperback test, and I understand why they would have internalized colorism, but I hate when people say I'm not that dark. Well, how dark do you have to be considered dark skinned? There's nothing wrong with being dark skinned. It's colorism that is the problem. So to say, well, I'm not that dark, and you're someone that wouldn't pass a paperback test, it makes me think, are you having some internalized colorism that's making you think that way? Or like, because honestly, if you weren't colorist, you would just be like, yeah, I'm dark, I'm dark, but I'm not that dark. I probably hear people say, well, I'm not that light. And I tell people I'm not that light because I'm brown skinned. And people will say that I am light skinned when it's convenient to shut me up about colorism. But then if I say, well, my grandma called me a red bone because I was talking about colorism, and she said, well, you really shouldn't even be worried about colorism because you're really light. You're like reddish. So you shouldn't even be worried. And she's someone who's very dark skinned. She is a Southern black woman. She grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, as well as my dad. So my dad's side of the family is consisted of dark skinned black folks. There are light skinned family members, but the racial, or I should say the genetic makeup, is usually dark skinned. But then my dad has a narrow nose, so he has, I guess, contoured features, while you look at my mom's side and she has a thicker nose. Her nose is a little bit narrower than mine. I don't know, and her lips are smaller than mine, but I think I got the width of my nose from my mama. And then I got the brownish complexion from my dad, because my mom is a little bit lighter than me. Maybe we're the same skin color, but I always consider her light skin. Not exactly yellowish, but probably like reddish. And I never really thought about skin color in my family. Of course, I knew that there were lighter relatives, but I never really put two and two together. I just thought, okay, we're brown people, but just of different shades. Because I had well, I have a cousin who is my mom's age, 54, 55, and she's light skinned, a successful black woman, green eyes. She's of Creole heritage, you know, and sandy colored hair. And, you know, she's someone that you should look up to or admire as a black woman. She is so accomplished, and I do believe it's because of her aesthetics that's helped her. But you have to admit that she is someone that is wonderful. She is a wonderful woman, and I've always looked up to her because she was about business. And you know, she is very beautiful. And my mom would make jokes like, "Oh, it's because she's light skinned and blah blah blah." But I'm thinking, why did you make that joke in the first place if there wasn't some truth to your sentiment, if you didn't think it was true? My aunt by marriage, married to my maternal uncle, my mom's brother, she is a dark-skinned woman. I always thought she and her daughters were beautiful black women. I never thought, oh, she's beautiful because, you know, she has dark skin. No, I thought, oh, wow, she's a beautiful black woman. You know, she has pretty skin. Like, I guess you could say like the dark skin was a factor, but I thought, wow, you know, her features and her skin, like she is such a pretty woman, and especially her daughter. Like, you know, her side of the family consists of very good looking people. Like, they are like good looking people, like different features and varieties, and you have to admit they are good looking people. And then her husband, my uncle, is a light skinned man, and my mom would try to make jokes like, well, if colorism was such a problem for dark-skinned women, then how come your uncle likes dark-skinned women? I don't know why my uncle chose to marry a dark-skinned black woman. She's pretty, she's smart. And my mom would say how my uncle had a preference for darker-skinned girls. He would gravitate towards darker-skinned girls growing up. And my uncle, as well as my other uncle, were pretty popular men. They were light-skinned, you know, with the wavy type of hair that they inherited from my grandfather, who, looking at old pictures, I could tell that he was a very light-skinned man. But because he worked out in the sun a lot, he acquired darker brown skin as he grew older. You know, he was pretty brown skinned as far as I remember him during my childhood when he was an older man. But looking back, he was high yellow. He was a high yellow man with fine hair. My mom would say how my uncles and my lighter skinned aunt acquired good hair because of my grandpa. And then she would also say that my grandma had, you know, finer hair. Or when my mom would comb her hair out, her mom's hair out, my grandma's hair, you know, it would be long. Like, her hair grew pretty fast. Like, she had long hair, like, you know, almost to her back. Like, it's just beautiful, long, just wispy gray hair. And so on my mom's side of the family, you know, they had more of a looser hair texture, wavy hair, you know. And my grandma, although she was a brown-skinned woman, darker than my grandpa, looking at pictures, she did have some pretty Eurocentric features, which is what my light-skinned aunt, you know, got her features from. And then my mom's like, well, that's where you get your almond-shaped slanted eyes from, your grandma. But my grandma was a not a dark-skinned woman, a little bit darker than me, but she like had a, you know, a cool meaty nose. Like, her nose was pretty meaty, and that's probably where I got my meat nose from. And you know, I just have diversity with that. And in my dad's side of the family, they have thicker, coarse hair, which is what I inherited the hair from. So, you know, that's genetics. You know, that's how that happens. People are like, well, how can you be so brown skinned or lighter skinned and have such bad hair? People have told me that. Or how can you be so, like this girl that told me that her dark skinned grandma used to talk about her, well, not her dark skinned grandma, but I guess she was a light skinned woman, used to talk about how, you know, she's too dark, she needs to stay out of the sun. She would sit there and say, you got a white people face but such nappy hair. And it's like, why do you care so much about my hair? Why? And it's like, I understand growing up, I have poor grooming habits, okay? And sometimes I can't help it because of my autism. You know, a lot of times people with disabilities, you know, with some sort of autonomy, but still they are disabled in other ways, may have poor grooming habits, may have poor hygiene. So it's, you know, very isolating to basically make fun of black women who may be disabled from not taking care of their hair, because, you know, there is a lot of ableism in the natural hair community. Well, you must learn how to do your hair all on your own, and no one thinks about how there are disabled black women who have poor grooming habits, who have poor hygiene, and that we should automatically know how to take care of our hair. Like, that's very ableist, because there are black women with autonomy or who don't have autonomy, who don't really know how to groom themselves, or at least groom themselves properly. They have to learn. They can't just do it right away. I'm a fast learner in some ways, like the computer and computer games and stuff like that. And then I'm a slow learner in other ways. So you have to just tell people, instead of just assuming, well, you got to take care of it yourself, because then it just shows you don't want to help them. You don't want them to take care of them. You want them to fatigue themselves and say, well, I'll just get a perm, and then you can be happy, and be happy that they are assimilating to the good hair society. But that's what I wanted to say. Another issue I wanted to talk about was the Baltimore riots. I didn't really say much about it. I've just been retweeting because I don't know much about it. But on Facebook, my white followers are talking about it, posting up statuses like, well, I don't really understand what's going on, what's happening. So people are telling them what is happening. This one girl who is in one of my organizations said, what's up with the Baltimore riots? So I like the post because I'm thinking, okay, at least she's being curious. At least she's not saying, well, I think this and that. She's asking, what's going on? Can someone tell me? And someone explained to her what had happened, what escalated to the riots. And she's like, well, it sounds like it's a bunch of black teenagers and other young people just looting for no reason. They just explained to you why there are riots. They explain to you what happened, and you're trying to say, well, they are just rioting for no reason. No, they are rioting because they had enough of police brutality. And I put a status, not very combative. I just said, if you think it's a disgrace, because she put that, she said it's a disgrace to the world that people are rioting and looting. I said, if you think that's a disgrace, it's a disgrace that people who are supposed to protect us are not protecting us and hurting many people. And then trying to say that, oh, it's justified homicide. No, these are crooked cops. And you can say not all cops, but that would be like, I am working at a school where there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. And yeah, I may not agree with it. You know, I may be the sweet teacher. I may be Miss Honey from Matilda, you know, with a fucked up principal. But even though I'm the sweet Miss Honey and everyone else is a jackass, at the same time, it's a fucking school. You know, one good person out of a million bad people isn't going to change the fact that it's not the individual that's a problem, it's the system. And that's what we are talking about. Yeah, I saw some cool cops, you know, that could have dragged our drunk underage asses to jail. But they were like, okay, just keep it calm. You know, I see that you guys are young, you know, stay out of trouble, you know, just keep it calm. You know, don't draw attention. And there were some cool cops, so I'll admit that. There are cool cops, and then there are shitty cops. But then that doesn't change the fact that the system is fucked up. And for you to say people are rioting for nothing, but they just told you why, shows that you know, but you just don't care. And I just would rather for people to stick to their blissful white privilege ignorance than act like they know what's going on. Just stay out of it. If you have nothing helpful to say, don't say it at all, because you don't know what's going on. So keep your mouth shut. Because if you're more amazed that there are riots going on and fires versus that, wow, so many black people are being killed. I mean, we had Eric Garner, we had Walter Scott, we had Renisha McBride, we had so many black women get killed. We had a little black girl. We had disabled black women. We had, you know, Trayvon Martin. Every week there was another fatality. And then for people to say, well, you know, violence isn't the answer. I said nonviolent protests had violent riots started by white people, you know, and then those nonviolent protesters had to fight back. They had to defend themselves because then they were bringing the dogs out and the hoses, and the police weren't being peaceful. The white people weren't being peaceful. So even nonviolent protests had a terrible backlash, fires and deaths and all of that. But we forget about that. You know, you can't say, well, you can't cuss, you can't scream, you can't get all aggressive, and then just sit back and let the whole world burn down. We need to work with the system. We need to, like, I don't need to do anything. It's the system that needs to improve. Because I don't work for the system. You know, I don't have to do shit but stay black and die, okay? So, all I have to say is, I'm not pro riots and violence and fires and looting and stealing shit and, you know, fucking up the earth or whatever. But also, I'm like, well, government, look what you did. This is what happens when you mess with black people. You know, people aren't happy. So what you gonna do? Because they ain't gonna stop until you improve the system. Also, briefly, I want to say I did an Angela Davis presentation. And I thought I was going to improvise because I was like, yeah, Angela Davis, I know all about her. Nope. Got up there and did poorly. I mean, I had the slideshows written out. Of course, I finished it like an hour before class. So that may have hurt it. Plus, there was this like really, I blame the cute guy that was like sitting in front of me because he was distracting me. And he looked like a certain guy that I've been having issues with. So it's his fault, okay? Nah, I can't even say that. But yeah, I mean, the teacher's like, oh, you did a pretty good job. But I sent him a message like, I know I didn't do so well, so I'm just going to send you a paper explaining, you know, more of who Angela Davis was. Because I feel like I did a disservice to her for just trying to wing it. And I should have just, you know, studied and did a better presentation, because people are looking at me and it was awkward. People are looking at me and I froze up, but the man was like, oh, it's okay because I've frozen up before. But he got the gist of it. But still, I just need to turn in my work because I'm graduating. Look, let me see. I get this cool little banner thingy, you know, the Kente scarf, like the black people scarf or the multicultural student scarf, whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna be posting my graduation photos next week on Friday, because you know what Friday is next week. Yeah. I'll just do that. Oh yeah, and I like that paper I wrote about children's literature and how it affects black girls, because I chose to do 2 natural hair books to do a presentation on about how black girls need to learn grooming techniques and self-esteem, and also boosting their confidence. And I was talking about how children's literature really has an impact on the multicultural society, because little black girls reading books talking about natural hair in a positive and normalized light shows that there's nothing wrong with their hair. So I wanted to do that because people were doing disabilities and children learning the alphabet and all that stuff, and I chose to do natural hair because embracing your hair, especially when you live in a society that says that your hair is bad based on how nappy it is, you really need that affirmation that, you know, hey, you're beautiful. So I thought that was so interesting. I am so proud. I meant to only do 3 pages because my professor is petty. He was like, well, since you didn't do your rough draft, your final draft is due today, Monday. So I'm like, oh crap. But I got it done in like an hour and 30 minutes. And I can't say that I am not proud. So today, after I pretty much bombed my Angela Davis presentation from that easy cultural diversity class that I'm pretty sure I was making an A before, and I'll probably make an A again because he's an easy grader, I decided to work on my presentation for children's literature 2 or 3 days ahead, which the presentation is Friday. So wish me luck on it, and please hope to God I don't choke. Please hope to God I don't fucking choke. I guess maybe I can make note cards or like make little PowerPoints of what it's about, and then show a video of the girl reading the book I Love My Hair, but I found her voice a little bit annoying, so I guess I can read Big Hair Don't Care, which I thought was cool. But anyway, have a nice day. Bye. I'll try to make a video later, because shit, I've been meaning to say so much, but I've been busy trying to graduate and get out of this hellhole of a, racist town.